In this lab, you will learn how to implement your organization's governance plans. You will also learn how Azure policies can ensure that operational decisions are enforced across the organization. You will also learn how to use resource tagging to improve reporting. There are 4 tasks that I will perform in this lab. In task 1, I will create and assign tags via Azure policy. In task 2, I'm going to enforce tagging via Azure policy. And in task 3, I'm going to apply tagging via Azure policy. And finally, in task 4, I'm going to configure and test resource lock. Now that I have my Azure portal open, I will start from task 1. So in task 1, I'm going to assign tags via Azure portal. In this task 1, I'm going to create and assign a tag to Azure resource group via the Azure portal. Tags are a critical component of governance strategy as outlined by the Microsoft Well-Architected Framework and Cloud Adoption Framework. Tags can allow you to quickly identify resource owners, sunset dates, group contacts, and other names or value pairs that your organization deems important. So the first thing that I will do is to go to resource group. And in the resource group, I'm going to click the create button. So I'm going to create a new resource group. I will call this resource group AZ-104-RG2. And for the region, I will leave it this way, East US. Then I will click next. Then for the tag, I will say cost center as the tag name. The value will be 000. Then I will click review plus create and I will click create. Now the resource group is ready. Remember, I tagged this resource group. The tag name is cost center and the tag value is 000. That is for the task 1. So that's how to assign tag to a resources via Azure portal. Now I'll move to task 2. In task 2, I'm going to enforce tagging via Azure policy. This is a situation whereby somebody is trying to create a resources and he failed to put a tag, and I want to enforce that tag. You can use Azure policy to actually do that. So in this task 2, we are going to assign built-in require a tag and its value on resources policy to the resource group and evaluate the outcome. Azure policy can be used to enforce configuration. In this case, we are going to use it to enforce governance, in our Azure environment. So the purpose here is to make sure that someone that wants to create a resources tag that resources. To do that, I'll go to policy. Now that I'm in policy, under the authoring section, there are 3 links under the authoring section. The first one is definition, assignment, and exceptions. Now let me click on the assignment. This is where you will see the list of all the policies that have been assigned. Right now, there's no single policy assigned. So I'll go back to the definitions. This is where I will see the list of the built-in policy that you can actually use to enforce governance within your organization. And if you notice, they are actually grouped. For example, if you need any policy that is related to the ISO 27002, that's for information security. You can see all of them are here. And how many policy? 162 policy. If you need policy on ISO 27017, how many are they? 102. So you can see, the way they group those policies based on standards. For example, let me expand this ISO IEC 27002. You can see on the description, it said ISO 27002 provides specific guidance on implementing controls for information security, complementing the ISO 27001. So you can see the list of those policies. You can see the list. So if you are looking for things that has to do with 27002, you can see the list of those policies here. So that's how these things are actually structured. Now, the policy that I want to implement here is a policy that will require a tag and its value on the resources. A policy that will enforce that somebody that wants to create a resources must put a tag. So I can manually search for that policy here. Require a tag, and it's, let me stop here. Let's see. It's going to give us something. Okay, this is it. Require a tag and its value on resources. Yes, require a tag and its value on resources. So I'll click on this. Let's review this definition. Again, the name is require a tag and its value on resources. If you look at the description, it said that the purpose is to enforce a required tag and its value. And if you look at the scripts, this is the script that will be deployed once I click assign policy. If you are used to JSON scripts, I'm very sure you can read these scripts. For someone like me now, I have a better understanding of what this script is actually saying. For example, this is the description, this is the name of the script, and so on. So what I will do now is to click assign policy. And I now need to specify where I want to assign the policy into. And that will take me to this place, scope. You can see is required, is important. Although it has picked a default value, that is my Azure subscription. But I can still click on this blue button to probably reset it or to change the the information that is there. Although in this case I have just one Azure subscription, but I want to limit it to a particular resource group. That resource group that I created earlier, that's this one. So I'm going to select this resource group and I will click select. Let me go back to this place. You can see that I can assign the policy on here, subscription. But also note that you can assign the policy on the management group as well as assigning it on the subscription. It can be on the resource group as you are seeing here. If I don't want it to be on this specific resource group, I'll just clear that field. So you you also have option of implementing exclusion. There's an option for exclusion as you can see here. So you have option of specifying exclusion such as individual subscriptions, resource groups, or resources. So in this scenario, what we want to do is that we want the tag on all the resources in this particular resource group AZ-104-RG2. Now, the policy already have a name. You can see, pick the name from the policy name, but I can rename it. So I want to rename it, I will say require cost center tag with default value. And the description is optional, but it's always good to always fill this description. The reason is that in case you no longer work on this project and somebody else is taking over from you, the person needs to understand where you are. So when you properly put descriptions on things that you are doing, it makes it easier for somebody that is taking over from you to have a better understanding of what you did. The description in this case is require cost center tag with default value for all resources in the resource group. Under the policy enforcement, you can see it said enabled. It simply means that it will enable the policy immediately. Just like I said earlier, do you take note that the assignment name is automatically populated with the policy name that you selected? But like I said, you can change it. The description, like I said earlier, is optional. You can see it's not compulsory. But in this case, I decided to fill that box for the description. I'll click next button. Now, what is going to be the tag? The tag is cost center and the value will be 000. So anybody that is trying to create a resources inside that resource group must put this tag cost center 000. And if you fail to do that, it will not be able to deploy that resources. And I'll click the review plus create again, and then I'll click create. So it's creating the policy assignment now. Please note that we are going to verify the policy assignment once the assignment is actually ready. So I'll wait for the assignment to be ready. Let me check this notification if it's ready. Yes, I think it's ready. Okay, let me go back to the policy under the assignment. Yes, it's here. And look at the scope. It's on what? Azure subscription 1. And this is the resource group AZ-104-RG2. If I try to test run this now, it might not take effect immediately. So that is why at times it is advisable that you wait for like 5 to 10 minutes before this policy can take effect. So I will pause this video and I will wait for a few minutes. So in your own case, try as much as possible to wait at least 10 minutes so that you can see the effect of the policy that we just deployed. It's time for us to test the policy assignments now. I will do this by going to the storage. So what I want to do is that I will try and create a storage account. In the process of doing that, I will deliberately omit tagging, and I'm going to deploy the same storage account into the AZ-104-RG2. That's the resource group that I attached that policy to, that require that you must tag any resource that you want to deploy into this resource group. So let's see if it's actually working. So I'll go to create. Now, look at the subscription. This is the same subscription that I selected while implementing that policy. And here is the same resource group that I also selected while implementing the policy. Now I'm going to give this storage account a name. 1759 storage account. It's still searching to see if it's okay or not. Okay. Now I'll click review plus create. It's going through validation now. Now look at it. Validation failed. Why did the validation fail? If I click on this, it will tell me why this validation failed. So I'll click on it. It said resource 1759 storage account was disallowed by policy. Which policy? Require cost center tag with default value. So it simply shows that it's working because this policy is what I put in place to make sure that anybody that wants to deploy a resources into that resource group AZ-104-RG2 must provide a tag. That is, it must tag that resources, and the tag name must be cost center and the tag value will be 000. Now let's move to the task 3. In task 3 now, I want to apply tagging via Azure policy. So in the task 3, I'm going to use the new policy definition to remediate any non-compliant resources. What I'm saying is this: instead of disallowing them not to provision the resources, it will only apply that tag into whatever resources that they are trying to provision. So in this scenario, I'm going to make any child resources of a resource group inherit the cost center tag that was defined in the resource group. So the first thing that I will need to do is to go back to the policy. I need to remove this policy that is preventing. So I need to remove this policy that is preventing creation of any resources that is not tagged. So I'll go to the assignment. Now that I'm in the assignment, this is policy that I want to remove. So I'll come here and I'll click delete assignment. I'll confirm the action that I'm trying to take. So right now it's removing the assignment. Successfully deleted the assignment. So the assignment is no longer there now. Therefore, I can go ahead now and implement the new one I just discussed. So I'll go back to I'll go back to the definition. That's the policy definition. This time around, I'm going to search for a new policy. That policy is inherit, inherit a tag, inherit a tag. Let's see, yes, inherit a tag from the resource group if missing. That's the policy that I want to use now. So I'll click on that policy, and from the description, you can see what is saying that it adds the specific tag with its value from the parent resource group when any resource missing this tag is created or updated. So I'll click on the assign policy, and so I need to specify the scope. The scope is, okay, let me click this button. The subscription will be Azure subscription 1, and the resource group will be RG2 resource group. So I'll click select, and for the assignment name, I will change the name. I will say inherit, inherit, inherit the cost center, inherit the cost center tag and its default value 000 from the resource group if missing. And under the description, I will type inherit the so it's going to be the same thing. So don't let me waste time. Yes. Then under the policy enforcement, it will be enabled. Then I'll go to the next button. Under the parameter, the tag name is going to be cost center. Then I'll click next. For the remediation, you can see this said create a remediation task. I'm going to check the box to enable it. So under the remediation task, Under the policy to remediate, inherit a tag from the resource group if missing. Yes. So this policy definition also include the process of modifying. So what I will do now is to click review and click create. So I'll wait for the policy to be configured. After that, we also need to wait for like 10 minutes or so that this policy can also take effect. So let me go and check if the policy is actually um, is in effect. This is the policy. Inherit the call center tag and its default value 00 from the resource group if missing. So I will wait for another 5 to 10 minutes so that I can allow it to propagate very well. So I'll come back after 10 minutes. So once again, I'm going to test the policy by going to the storage account, and I'm going to create a storage account again. This time around, I will still not put tag. Remember the policy that we implemented was that if there is no tag, it should inherit the tag of the parent, which is going to be the one for the resource group. And the tag in the resource group is cost center, and the value is 000. So this is the subscription and this is the resource group, AZ-104 RG2. So 1759 storage account. Then I will click review plus create. It's going through the validation now. Now I will click create. So it's initializing the deployment. Deployment is in progress now. So the deployment is complete. I will go to the resource now. Let's go and confirm the tag. Here's the resource, 1759 storage account. I'll click tags. What do you see? Cost center, value what? 000. So it simply shows that what we configure is actually working. The last task, which is task 4, is where I will now configure and test resource lock. So in this task, I'm going to configure and test a resource lock. The purpose of lock is that it prevents either deletion or modification of resources. So if there is a lock on the resource group or subscription, whatever resources that you put there, let's say inside the resource group, you cannot delete. If the lock is delete lock, you can only modify. So let's go ahead and see this in action. So I'm going to look for resource group. And here is the resource group that I'm looking for. So I will select the resource group. So this is the resource group I want to lock. So on the settings of the resource group, we're going to see lock. And from the lock, I'll click add, and for the lock name, I'll say rg-lock, and on the lock type, I'll make it delete lock. Then I'll click OK, and that is it. I've locked that resource group. So what I will do now is this. I will navigate back to the resource group. I want to delete the resource group. Will it work? Let's try it and see. So I'll click delete resource group. Let me confirm it. And I will say delete. Look at it. Delete resource group AZ-104-RG2 failed. Why? The resource group AZ-104-RG2 is locked and can't be deleted. So it simply shows that the lock is working. So in order for me to be able to delete this, I will have to go back to the lock and remove the lock. So I will delete the lock. You can see the lock is no longer there. Then I can go back now to the resource group, and I can now click on delete the resource group. So let me confirm it again. This time around, it's going to remove that resource group because the lock is no longer there. So that is it for this lab demonstration. So there are 4 tasks that I performed. Do you still remember those 4 tasks? Let's review. The first task that I perform is that I assign tags via the Azure portal. That is, I create a resource group, remember, and I assign a tag to that resource group to show you how to assign a tag to resources. Now, in the second task, I enforce tagging via the Azure policy. What I simply did is that if anybody tried to create a resources and it did not tag it, you should not allow that resources to be created. And that is what we did, and we tested it and it worked perfectly. In the task 3, that is where I assign tagging via the Azure policy. In that task, I use the policy definition to remediate a non-compliant resources. So a resources that is not compliant, what happened? I said that that resources should inherit, the tag from its parents, that is the resource group. And we tested it and it worked perfectly. And the last thing we did was to implement the lock, whereby I locked this RG2, and after locking it with the delete lock, I tried to delete the resource group and it failed. I went back and I removed the lock and I said delete again. And right now, let's go back. It said deleted resource group. Yes, it has removed the resource group and anything that is inside that resource group. You can see the resource group is empty. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing to this channel. Please, let me know what you think in the comment section. And do not forget to leave a like and share this video. See you in the next one.